The largest transfer of wealth in modern history has already begun. Most people do not realize it. There are no flashing headlines every day, no countdown clocks, no dramatic announcements from governments. Yet right now, trillions of dollars, homes, businesses, investments, and financial assets are slowly moving from one generation to another. And this transfer could reshape families, housing markets, financial markets, and the economy itself for decades to come. This is what economists call the Great Wealth Transfer. And whether you inherit wealth, hope to pass wealth to your children, or simply live in the economy affected by it, this story matters. Because this is not only about money, it is about opportunity, it is about inequality, it is about retirement, it is about housing, and ultimately, it is about who gets ahead in the next chapter of economic history. For decades, many people built wealth through a relatively simple formula. They worked, they bought homes, they saved, they invested, they contributed to retirement accounts. And over many years, those assets slowly increased in value. Now, the generation that accumulated much of that wealth is getting older. Many are retiring, many are entering their later years. And eventually, much of what they own will pass to heirs, charities, institutions, or the market itself. The numbers involved are enormous, not millions, not billions, trillions. Entire neighborhoods, family businesses, investment portfolios, retirement accounts, land, properties, generations of accumulated assets. At first, this sounds like good news, and for many families it absolutely will be. Children may inherit homes, grandchildren may receive financial support, family businesses may continue. Some people may gain opportunities they otherwise would never have had. But like most major economic shifts, the reality is more complicated because wealth is not distributed equally. Some families own significant assets, others own very little. Some families will receive substantial inheritances, others will receive none at all. And this is where the story becomes much larger than inheritance, because the great wealth transfer may widen the gap between those who own assets and those who depend entirely on income from work. Imagine two young adults. Both work hard, both earn similar salaries, both have similar skills. But one eventually inherits a mortgage-free home worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The other inherits nothing. Their lives may begin in similar places, but their financial futures may look very different. This is one reason economists are paying close attention to the great wealth transfer. Because wealth often creates opportunities that income alone cannot provide. A home can reduce housing costs. An investment account can generate additional income. A business can create future earnings. Assets create flexibility, and flexibility is becoming increasingly valuable in today's economy. This matters because we are already living through a period of financial pressure. Inflation has made everyday life more expensive. Housing prices have reached levels many young families struggle to afford. Debt remains high. Retirement is becoming more uncertain, and artificial intelligence is creating new questions about future job security. Against that backdrop, inherited wealth may become even more influential. Not because inherited wealth guarantees success, but because it can provide a financial head start in a world where getting started has become increasingly difficult. Housing is perhaps the clearest example. In many cities, home prices have risen far faster than wages. For younger generations, saving for a down payment can feel almost impossible, but for someone inheriting property, the challenge may look very different. This does not mean inheritance is unfair. Families naturally want to help future generations. The issue is that the housing market increasingly reflects accumulated wealth rather than earned income alone, and that changes the economic landscape. The great wealth transfer is also happening at a time when retirement systems face pressure. Many older adults depend on pensions, savings, and investment portfolios to support retirement. But healthcare costs are rising. People are living longer. Inflation continues to erode purchasing power. As a result, some wealth that might have been passed on may instead be consumed during retirement. Medical expenses, long-term care, housing costs, daily living expenses. These realities remind us that inheritance is never guaranteed. Many people assume they will receive significant assets someday, but life rarely follows a perfect financial plan. That uncertainty is important because it highlights one of the biggest risks surrounding the great wealth transfer: expectations. Some people may build future plans around money they assume will arrive, yet inheritance timing, size, and circumstances are impossible to predict with certainty. Financial decisions based on assumptions can create disappointment, and disappointment can create financial vulnerability. Another risk involves family conflict. Money often reveals emotions that remain hidden for years. Questions about fairness, responsibility, promises, expectations, family businesses, property ownership, inheritance can strengthen families, but it can also create tension. This is one reason clear communication and planning matters so much. Now add artificial intelligence and technological change to the story. At first, these topics seem unrelated, but they are connected. As technology transforms jobs and industries, wealth ownership may become increasingly important. A person whose income depends entirely on employment may face greater uncertainty than someone who also owns productive assets. Again, this does not mean work becomes irrelevant. Work will always matter. Skills will always matter. But ownership may matter even more than it did in previous generations. This is why many analysts believe the great wealth transfer could become one of the defining economic events of the next 20 years. Not because everyone becomes wealthy, but because asset ownership may play an even larger role in determining financial outcomes. Now, despite the challenges, there are opportunities. The first opportunity is education. Many families avoid conversations about money because they feel uncomfortable. But understanding inheritance, estate planning, retirement, taxes, and asset management can help families make better decisions. Knowledge reduces confusion. Knowledge reduces conflict. Knowledge creates options. The second opportunity is planning. Wealth that is planned for often survives. Wealth that is ignored often disappears faster than people expect. History is filled with examples of fortunes built over decades and lost within a few years. Not because of bad luck, but because of poor preparation. The third opportunity is perspective. The great wealth transfer is not only about receiving money, it is about understanding the role wealth plays in financial security. Assets matter, savings matter, financial literacy matters, and perhaps most importantly, long-term thinking matters. The practical lessons are surprisingly simple. Do not assume inheritance is guaranteed. Do not build your future entirely around expectations. Understand the difference between income and wealth. Income is what you earn. Wealth is what you own. Both matter, but they are not the same thing. Pay attention to housing. Pay attention to retirement planning. Pay attention to family financial discussions. And recognize that economic change often happens gradually before it suddenly becomes obvious. Because the great wealth transfer is not a future event. It is already happening. Homes are changing hands. Businesses are changing ownership. Investment accounts are moving between generations. The economic map is quietly being redrawn. Some people will benefit enormously. Others may not benefit at all. And many will simply experience the indirect effects through housing markets, asset prices, and changing opportunities. That is why this story matters. Not because everyone will inherit wealth, but because everyone will live in the economy shaped by it. The great wealth transfer may become one of the most important economic shifts of our lifetime, and the people who understand it early may be better prepared for the opportunities, challenges, and realities it creates. Because in the end, this is not simply a story about money moving from one generation to another. It is a story about how the future itself may be distributed.